Today marks 27 years since Megan's Law was enacted at the federal level. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Zach Lajway, and this is KPRC 2+ Now. Megan's Law is named after Megan Conca, a child from New Jersey. In July of 1994, at just 7 years old, Megan was raped and murdered by her neighbor. The neighbor, a registered sex offender, moved into the home across the street from Megan's family. But the family was unaware. The man confessed to killing Megan the day after she disappeared. In the wake of the tragedy, her family sought for communities to be warned about sex offenders in the area. Today, all states have a form of Megan's Law. Here in Texas, you are able to look up registered sex offenders in your area through Texas Department of Public Safety's website. Joining me this morning is Andy Kahn, Director of Victim Services with Crime Stoppers Houston, to talk more about this registry. As always, Andy, good morning, sir. Thank you for coming on the show.
Hey, great to be here. This is a subject near and dear to my heart.
With that said, who is required to register with the sex offender registry here in Texas?
Okay, so Texas right now, we have close to 100,000 sex offenders that are actually registered on the database. That might sound large because we're a large state, but in capacity, we're not even in the top 10. So any offender who's convicted of any sexual offense, who's either in prison, parole, or probation, must register. Now, obviously, if you're in prison, you're not going to register until you get released on parole or discharged your sentence. Many of them have to register for life. Others have to register for 10 years. So it depends on the level of offense. And you know, Zach, in 1997, I was one of the ones that actually pursued the right for the public to actually get access to sex offenders on a database. That's how long ago this was established. I always thought that the public, since this is public information, anybody who's convicted, their name, their picture, their address, and other items tying them to their identity is available for the public. So 1997, Texas actually joined other states in putting this registry together. Prior to that, it was almost comical because in the back of the Houston Chronicle on a Saturday, in the classified section, there would be a little space there and it would say sex offender registry, and it would actually do this. It would go male 50, beach nut 77036, sexual assault of a child, which frankly in a large city was practically worthless. So I'm glad that we made that change.
And at the time, that was the only way for people to know.
Absolutely. And then we took it a step further in the next legislative session in 1999. If you get a postcard in the mail, you can thank some of us, including me, for that. If you get a postcard in the mail, it's for any sex offender who's labeled high risk, or they've been civilly committed and they're continuing their sentence, only they're under a civil commitment. So high-risk sex offenders must send out a postcard notification to anybody within a 3-block radius. So we've seen a lot of changes to the sex offender registry law.
A lot of positive change for the community. Andy, how are offenders classified on the state sex offender registry, and what information is included available to community members?
So I encourage anybody to check the sex offender database, and you can go on the DPS website. All you do is put in your zip code, and it'll start listing everybody who's registered in that area. So anybody who has been convicted, and that obviously that's the key word, you got to be convicted, must register. And again, some have to register for a lifetime for some of the most serious offenses, usually involving a child, and then the lesser included sex offenses, you have to register for 10 years. And there's one misnomer that I'd like to clear up, because we get questions all the time. Well, I looked on my neighborhood, and we've got sex offenders that are living by a school or a daycare. Is that allowed? If you are on parole or probation, generally that is a condition of your lease that you can't live within a certain radius of a school or a daycare. But if you had discharged your sentence and all you're required to do is register, in other words, you're not on parole or probation anymore, you can live anywhere you want.
You know, that's fascinating to know and to keep in mind. I know, you know, Megan's Law and sex offender registries get a lot of attention during Halloween and the holidays, but this is really something that community members and leaders really should be cognizant all year long about.
And they should be checking quite frequently, because the reality is that a high percentage of sex offenders are transient. So what's in your neighborhood today might change by the next month.
All really great points. Always appreciate you coming on the show and taking time to chat with us, Andy. Thank you very much, sir.
You bet. Take care.